Good morning, Nelson County family. We are so excited to welcome you to our fourth edition of the Community Brew Live. We are thrilled that you are joining us this morning, and we have such a treat lined up for you. I am not going to waste your time talking. I do want to welcome you and encourage you to hop over in our chat over on the right-hand side of the screen. And I'll be over there moderating, hopping in and out. So definitely drop your questions, anything that you want to contribute to the chat. But I'm going to toss it over to our host for today, Robin McCoy, and let her kick off our conversation.
Good morning, guys. I'm excited to do this with you guys. We've got a good topic for you this morning, or at least I think it's a good topic. I posted last night on Impossible Care and Connect that I told BJ that we were going to talk about the plasticity of the brain. And like I said, when I posted, he was like, what? And then I was like, no, we'll just talk about our feelings, okay? And he was, true story, he's like, are you kidding me? Like, that's what you're going to talk about? And I was like, no, we will get into those things. But it's really about how are we caring for each other, connecting with one another, not just during this time, but it's like this weird phenomena that's happened that has really highlighted the importance around caring and connecting with one another and for one another during this unique time. So it's a good conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. I want to introduce, I'll let them introduce themselves, people on the panel, some people that I care a lot about and work with almost daily. So I'm going to switch it over to them to let them introduce, tell them a little bit about yourselves, your name, what school you're at, your positions.
Good morning, I'm Mickey Rogers. Oh, come on. All right. Good morning, I'm Mickey Rogers from Bloomfield Elementary, and I'm the counselor here.
Hello, I'm Brooks Thomas. I'm the school counselor at Foster Heights.
Hey guys, I am the counselor over at Bloomfield Middle School. My name is Alyssa Wilkinson.
I am Melissa Call, and I am a counselor at Thomas Nelson High School.
I am Sarah Thornberry. I'm one of the school counselors at the academy, and this is Paisley.
And good morning, I'm Katie Brown. I'm the school counselor at New Haven.
Nice, thank you guys. So before we get started, maybe it's just for me, but I need a minute. I was telling them before the show started, I was a little bit nervous to do this. So I want to take just 30 seconds on a YouTube live and just acknowledge our presence and be mindful about the time we're about to spend together. So I'm going to ask for just 30 seconds of silence as we think about the question, because it'll lead us into what we're going to discuss with our panel. 30 seconds of just who are you connecting with that is bringing you joy right now? Because the connections are so important, even more, connections are so important on a daily basis. I know they drive me, they drive my feelings, they drive so much about me. So 30 seconds, I'll time it. And I just want you to sit in reflection and contemplation for 30 seconds and just think, what connections are bringing you joy? What people are bringing you joy? 30 seconds on the clock. Here we go. All right, guys, thank you all for doing that with me. It's important that we think about the people in our lives right now. And so going back now as we get started, and we've got that on our minds about people that are bringing us joy and that we're connecting with, the resources that were shared, there was a podcast shared, and then there was an article. The podcast is really cool. It talked about fear in kids. It was actually released at Halloween about fear and how humans deal with fear and how fear operates in our brain, and then how resilience shows up and can develop in students. Students, staff, adults. It's not an adult skill, actually. It's a skill we develop from very young, and then we continue to hone it all throughout our lives. So I'm going to ask some questions of our panel and let them share. That being our level of knowledge is how resilience is showing up and how fear shows up in our brains, and knowing that through this time of NTI, I know we're so concerned about our kids losing information, our kids not being able to be with us, and this what's happening to the human brain during this time of crisis. But I'm gonna tell you, like I said, I was gonna touch on plasticity just a little bit. The plasticity of our brains is just phenomenal. And so that's what how resilience shows up. And so one of the ways that we develop resilience is through connections, humans to humans, whether that be virtual right now or whether it actually be in person. And so, panel, let me throw this out to you, and I want to hear kind of how this is showing up in your schools, your thoughts on it, and it could be showing up right now during NTI time, or it could have showed up, a little country twang in my accent there, could have showed up before this NTI time. So we know humans need other humans. So how are you all building connections in your schools with your staff, and also during that Care and Connect time with your students pre-NTI and then during NTI? So I'm gonna throw it at you all. Feel free to answer, whoever first.
I can start on this one. So something that we're doing over at Bloomfield Middle is we've gone to Care and Connect every single day at the middle school to start off our day. We kickstart our day with that. And that's something that we have kept even during this NTI time. So like I know at the elementary schools, you guys have your homerooms, and this kind of serves as like our homerooms time, where they kind of have that one person that they at least are connecting with live every single day. And so we are really using that time just for check-ins, like how you guys doing? Like some of the feedback I've gotten from teachers is like they are talking about emotions, like the real emotions that their kids are going through right now, some of the struggles that the kids are seeing in their homes, or kind of what they're feeling, this kind of confusing time. And so that's something that we've really enjoyed, is just that morning 20 minutes every single day. We're still getting to connect with our kids. I still get emails from my Care and Connect group of my girls like, we miss you. I wish we were back. Can't wait to be back. And so that's been really fun, but it gives every adult a chance to connect with every single kid in the building.
At Foster Heights.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Brooks.
No, I keep doing it. Melissa, you go on. I was just gonna say at Foster Heights, before NTI days, we started Care and Connect every morning, and like you said, Alyssa, this time during virtual school or NTI days, our homeroom teachers have really stepped up, and they're making contact every day with our students, and our kids get to be involved in Google Meets with their friends daily, if not daily, then multiple times a week. So it's really been awesome seeing my own kid be able to still be and have those conversations with her teacher and her classmates and her friends. And, they really still have those relationships with each other. The other day, they were reading together on the Google Hangout, like one kid would read one page and then another page. So it's just awesome that they can still have those interactions and things like that while they're away.
Okay, I'll follow up. Prior to NTI days, what our weeks look like were quite different from now. They're very structured. We know consistency is care, and students of all ages need structure. So they had 2 days a week that were creative directing. It was up to the Care and Connect leader to determine what that looked like. They had either an excavating gifts coursework period, or they had a community course reading. And then another day was dedicated to house competition. So within our houses, we're broken into 4 houses like a lot of the schools are. And then we would compete within our house just to share that connection between Care and Connect. So you're not only connected within yours, you're connected with other Care and Connects as well. And then Friday was Future Story Prep lessons. So now that looks drastically different because it's a lot of creative directing days where it's up to that Care and Connect leader to determine the needs of their Care and Connect and what the most appropriate or best way to reach out to their Care and Connect would be. So whether that's Snapchat check-ins or Google Meets, just maintaining that human connection is really the main emphasis.
I know here at the elementary, we were doing our meetings on Monday every week, and that was easy, and we had kids in small groups. Now that we're talking about virtual reality, a lot of our kids don't even have internet connection. So we've had to really restructure and go back to more of a homeroom base, and then those individual calls too, just to keep those kids connected here at school.
And I can follow up with that at New Haven. We have kind of had to do the same. Prior to NTI work, we were meeting every day in homerooms. We also had a buddy system going where students were had a buddy from a different grade level that they were able to connect with, build a relationship with that maybe they wouldn't have, before that. We have Mustangs Matter for middle school. We are looking to, like Mickey said, kind of roll that out through this time if this is over an extended period of time. However, some of ours are not connected virtually, so we're having to get real creative. We sent some care packages through some snail mail. We're excited about that. And the homeroom teachers have really just been texting, calling, emailing, just trying to make any kind of connection they can because, just them hearing from us, we know is very important from this time. So we're just trying to follow up and let them hear from us, know that we do still care about them. We are still here. It just looks a little different, right?
At the academy, things have, they always have looked a little bit different. Before the NTI days, our teachers had their core groups and they did a lot of restorative care and conversations about, what led them here or those things that were triggers for them. So we've been able to divide our students up based on who their teacher is while they're with us, or even I have students, Mr. Webster has students, Beth has students, and really check in on them. And I think that this has given us the opportunity to see those barriers a little clearer, and then also like the kids that are disconnected from school. We have some that they had disconnected mentally a long time ago, and so now that they're physically disconnected, like how are we addressing that is kind of the place that we're at right now, is how we deal with that disconnection.
To follow up with you, Sarah, we've got some good conversations happening over here in our chat on live YouTube. Thank you guys out there for contributing. Just so our panel knows, we've got about 66 live viewers happening out there in YouTube land. So Mark Webster, he followed up with your comment, Sarah, and said, NTI has given us the chance to consider what community can look like and how we can think through relationships and content and really think about what matters. Missy Case over at OKH, she said we are doing Family Friday next Friday. That sounds super exciting. I love this. Each house will come together to compete and receive energy awards. Gratitude to our house leaders and architects for that. So really exciting to see a lot of these ideas for human connection kind of come to life in the comments. Leslie Girdley says Leader Madness has been fun. We also have some leaders out there. If you are on YouTube Live right now and you are connecting with us from a different district across the state, definitely pipe in and let us know where you're from, because we love connecting with our Nelson County family, but connecting across the state during this time is just as important too. And, sharing ideas with each other as educators in the Commonwealth. I know for me, I loving me some Andy Bashir right now. And if you're part of the meme group on Facebook, I don't know if Kentucky's ever been more united. So let's come together as educators as well and share ideas. So definitely drop that in the comments too.
Thanks, Brooke, for sharing that. Yeah, it's just like getting back to this kind of basis of a human's needs and desires. If we can get all complicated and talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but just that human to human connection is just so critical. I see it in my own kids as their teachers have reached out to them. And Scout, she looks forward to talking to her teachers and seeing their faces and seeing her friend's face on Google Meet. She just craves that connection with them that was suddenly lost. And that gets us into our next topic. This morning I read this article on grief and how grief is showing up during this, which sounds really weird. Like, well, we haven't really lost any. Some people have lost people, but other than that, those us in this community of primary just lost connections with people, lost opportunities, lost just this feeling of normalcy. And so we're living in a little bit of a grief structure because we don't know what's next. And that goes into a person's system of control. And so one of the the podcast on fear talked about a person's system of control and that desire to keep control of things, which I think goes to the experiences we're creating for kids in our schools pre-NTI and during NTI. And so I want to pose a question to the panel around that control, like our desire, our own personal as employees and teachers and staff members, but also allowing that a kid to use their system of control because they desire it as well, to seek control, and actually it's an ability to be able to release control. But what does it mean to honor a system's or a student's control system as we think about the experiences we're creating around excavating gifts, again, pre-NTI, hopefully post-NTI, and during NTI. So I'll pose that to the panel and just let you all your thoughts on that, and how is that showing up in your schools, this system of control, allowing students to take control of their learning.
Well, I think at our school, with teachers, they need some normalcy. I think, they have kind of gotten into a schedule. It's kind of rolling. Same thing with our kids. At first, it was just like we were kind of trying to figure out how it's going to work and how it's going to go. And now we're setting up systems to connect with those kids, certain times for Google Meet, certain times for this. It seems to be helping restore some of that normalcy to get a little bounce back going.
Which in turn allows them to feel that level of control. Normalcy, although it can't be so strict, it does provide students and staff to feel a level of control during times of uncertainty.
I think that's where, routine comes in. Routine doesn't necessarily mean doing the exact same thing every day, because we know we need variety, we need change, we need growth mindset. But, just knowing what to expect in some regards allows students to feel more within control. They can control their anxiety in that regard, because the unknown is scary. And right now there's a lot of unknowns. And so as providing those parameters for their learning, knowing that there's a lot of different ways that they could learn right now, there's a lot of different assignments we could be utilizing, but they still need parameters for them to feel that they're in control. And our leaders need parameters to make sure they feel that they have a firm grasp on this as well.
I'm going to chime in on this conversation, even though I'm not officially part of the panel, but I stole an idea from a friend off of Facebook where, there's all these schedules and stuff happening and floating around for your kids. And I saw one that was just really simple, and it was just a checklist where, it was like all these different things. But one of the ones that struck me was, did you FaceTime your friend today? And, it just was such a good reminder. And so I've been doing it with my kids. Did you FaceTime your grandparents? Did you FaceTime your friend? Just to help our kids and remind our kids to also maintain their friendships, with each other, I think is really important too on these, along these same lines.
I think for us, the consistency of we didn't just check in with you once, we keep checking in with you has been really powerful, because I think they thought, they'll give up after this. But when we haven't given up, that's been really important for them to see that. And I think that it's increasing the buy-in with our students on why this, staying connected is important and keeping going is important.
And I think off that, Sarah. Oh, sorry, Brooks, you keep trying to talk.
No. Go on, Alyssa.
I was just going to say that, kind of going after that, persistence on our part is, as adults, we're showing the kids, we don't have control either. Like, we're outside our level of control, which is uncomfortable for us, but we're going to keep going at it with you, and kind of modeling that kind of 1 foot out of our comfort zone of, okay, we know we need to teach you these things, or we need to care for you in this way, but we don't quite know what that looks like next week, but we're kind of going to go with it, and we're still going to be here for you, and we're going to walk you through this. They said in the podcast, like, resiliency comes from having that person to rely on. Like, if at least they can rely on the fact that we are going to check in with them every day, and we're going to be there for them, and we don't know what next week brings, but we're going to be there. Like, that, I think, is so important, especially during this time.
Yeah, Alyssa, I completely agree. I had that written down too. Like, they need adults to count on, and that helps them regain their power and their control to know that we're going to be there for them, and when they need us. And like you said, Sarah, we're not going to give up. We're not just going to call one time and it's going to be over. We're all in this together, and I just think that's really important to help them kind of feel that sense of control themselves.
And going off of what Brooke said about having her kids a schedule, I think that's important. We actually talked about that yesterday with our staff, gave them examples of schedules that they can be sending out to their families. And when I think about connection during this time, I do fully agree with Brooke that it is just important that they know that we are not going anywhere. We are going to have consistent checkups, but also that it is just important that they also remember that this time is also a time for them to build up on the connections that they have even outside of school. I mean, we're going to continue to be consistent, and they also need to, in turn, be consistent with the relationships that they have with family and friends. So just keep on keeping on with them.
There's some great, sorry.
So fun. Sorry, Brooke.
No, listen, there's so much conversation happening right now. Like, we're just all, I love it. I love it. That's usually never the problem. You go ahead, girl.
I think something with that is the kids connection too, is that our students are like hopping on our Google Meets like 15, 20 minutes before they're even supposed to start, because they just want to get on and talking before the teacher or the adult even gets there. So that's something that's been really cool to see, is that they're able to continue those connections too. And it's important for them for that too.
I was just going to hop over to the chat and check in. There's this strange conversation. I'm not totally sure what's happening about the Irvinator, and Amber Irvin over here is really loving and connecting on her peeps at OKH. I'm not really sure what's happening, but definitely some really great ideas. Kelsey Behrman from Cox's Creek says consistency is key. She agrees we are feeling the power of showing up for our families every day. Let's see. Mr. Bradley piped in, if we value community building through Care and Connect House communities, what resources are we willing to commit to strengthening it over the next 3 months? A good time to assess value. Let's see. Laura Mann, one of our amazing Impossible librarians, she says, I think I've gotten to know my coworkers better the last week or so through the Google Meets. I feel more connected because I actually see them more than one day a week. It's interesting. I couldn't agree with that more. Like, even though we're really super isolated, it's been interesting for me to like kind of watch my kids get to know their teachers, I think, even more on like a different kind of level. So that's been super fun too. But our chat's over here hopping. Definitely, you guys, if you're over there in the chat, hit subscribe, show our panel some love, hit the like button there underneath the video. You all are amazing this morning. I love it.
I agree with that, like connecting and getting to know people. Like, I think seeing people in like their natural habitat in their homes is like super exciting. I love seeing it, and like it's given us all a chance to get to know each other just a little bit more. I mean, you all have seen like kids popping in and out over here, and then we know like Katie has like her Easter tree, and like it gets us the chance to know like little bits and pieces of each other's personality that we didn't know before. So I think that's been really neat.
Yeah, Sarah, I was actually going to say the exact same thing. Like, I love looking in the background of people in their homes because it just shows a little bit of character behind them, who they are. You get to know them even deeper. So it's been really interesting seeing that, meeting people's children. Like, it's a really cool way that we're getting to connect with each other through this weird time And I hope it continues to grow. As Mr. Bradley said, what resources are we willing to commit to over the next few months as we engage in this virtual type of connection, because we all feel the emphasis and the need, like I said at the beginning, like it's this phenomena that we're finally realizing connection and caring for one another is so critical. And so just to kind of to close us out, many of you all have read the book Permission to Feel, which really, according to the title, it gives us the permission to feel the feelings that we're having. It tells us how to recognize them, understand them, label them, and really eventually regulate them. And so I want to ask this final question to our panel. How is that kind of showing up and showing out through your experiences right now during NTI and the allowances pre-NTI? How are we allowing these feelings to emerge? And really, some APs on that chat could probably kind of add some conversation to that, because they see feelings emerge through action sometimes. And so how are we allowing emotions and feelings to show up in our schools?
Okay, I'll start us off. So I would say it all starts with, a real conversation and a question of, what's going well, what's not going well, and being able to allow students to be vulnerable and express, first they have to recognize what's not going well, to put a name to it, to then come to grasp with how they're feeling and work through it. But just allowing them that platform to talk about it is really important, because that's the first step to regulating, is to first recognize, like, what are you feeling? That's not always easy. We do mood meters together, and sometimes it's like, choose from this box of, 100 adjectives that describe your mood. Where are you today? And that's not always easy for me to put one word to my mood. And so it's certainly not easy for children to do. And so walking them through that, just kind of scaffolding, like, well, what are you feeling? And maybe we have to first, identify behaviors to be able to help them put words to their feelings, and then just help them come to terms through resources, through activities, through just support, just being there, and so forth. So
I agree, Melissa. Like, I think something that even at like the middle school level, like we struggle with is just to simply name what the emotion is. And so prior to NTI experiences, that was our whole Care and Connect focus, was like learning more words to accurately describe how we're feeling. Because I'm mad doesn't necessarily say that I'm frustrated because I don't understand what's going on in the classroom, or I'm frustrated because this person over here is doing whatever they're doing. And so helping kids navigate what it is we're feeling, so that we can learn to process it and learn to deal with it and learn to then understand how it's connected to the behaviors that we're seeing. Something I think Lisa and I over at Bloomfield Middle School do a lot with a handful of kids is we just need to put you over there for a second and let you de-escalate before we can even start that conversation, because that is so important for them to really process it, that if we escalate them more, it's not going to happen. And so looking at really what it is they're feeling and how it's affecting their behavior is so important.
I was reading yesterday, my electricity went off yesterday, as if quarantine wasn't enough. My electricity went off for several hours yesterday, and I was sitting on the couch reading with my kiddos, and I just started a book called Untamed, and I was reading on the couch last night a portion of the book. Actually, I was reading it out loud to my daughter, and she was writing about how it wasn't until she was in her 40s that she realized that feelings were actually meant to be felt. And it was just such a powerful statement. And it really was a good conversation that I was able to have with my kids last night, really for all of us, because it was just, we all just kind of bubbled over with the feelings last night. The stress and all the things, and the quarantine, and then the electricity. And it was just like, okay, let's feel what we need to feel. And, as crazy as it is, like this experience, I think, Haley in the comments over here made a comment. Let me see if I can scroll back and find it. She said, we will be a stronger district, school community at the end of this. The way that people are pushing through the barriers in some ways, fighting to stay connected is powerful. Together we can. And I think the same thing about like our social emotional health as well, you know, in this experience. And just, you know, even like, I don't know, has anybody ever taken 30 seconds live on YouTube and done mindfulness? I don't even know. Like, has that ever been done? You know, I mean, it's just a special time, I think, to think and really be present and aware. And I don't know, that's my 2 cents for the day, you guys.
All right, so I think we're about to wrap it up. Any last concluding remarks from the panel that you all would like to add before we wrap it up?
Well, I definitely appreciate you guys jumping in here with us today. Our conversation is amazing. Definitely, we have some JCPS friends in our chat. So, hello, Maria. Thank you for joining us today. You all are incredible out there. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already so you get those notifications. We have a full week of YouTube Live Community Brews out there for you this week. We're not stopping. Every morning, 8:30, start your day with us for connecting and conversations. And we will see you tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. thecommunitybrew.live.com. See you guys.